this video, I'm going to show you some tips for making your Canvas course more accessible. The Americans with Disabilities Act says that all public spaces have to be accessible to all users, and that includes digital spaces such as your Canvas course. So a couple tips that I want to point out. First of all, the rich content editor is built to make things accessible. You can access it by editing within any page, assignment, announcement, discussion, quiz, or even the syllabus, and it looks like this. If you haven't looked into how to use the rich content editor, I highly recommend that you play with it and explore the different options. Now, one of the things I want to point out is the size of the text. So the heading, the title of your page, is automatically a heading 1, but you have these different options of heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, pre-formatted, and paragraph. The paragraph defaults to a font size of 12, which is pretty small if a student is using a small device such as a Chromebook, especially for our little elementary kids. So we do want to recommend that you use a larger font size for students. We also want to point out that some colors are just not accessible. These colors over here are hard to see on a small screen. So your best bet is black, very dark gray, or burnt orange. In terms of choosing font, the Balsamic Sans, which you can find by going to Fonts and going up to there, is one that we found elementary students find easy to read because the A's are made the way we teach them. For accessibility of images, we also want to make sure that we are clicking on the image or when we input it and making sure there is an alt text. The alt text is for non-text content, and it tells what the screen reader should say when it comes to the picture. So for example, here I've put the Eiffel Tower during daytime. I can be as specific as I want. You can also embed the image by clicking that. Now I want to point out that some images you don't need the screen reader to read. For instance, this light bulb, if I click on image options, it doesn't matter what it's called. It's a decorative image. I don't want a screen reader to read that to my students. So that's something else to consider. Also, when you're looking at inserting links, it's important in order to make things easier for your students to not put the entire long web address here, but instead to link it, which you can do by highlighting a word, selecting link, and then putting your external link into the word that you have highlighted, as is done here. So those are a couple things. Finally, we want to make sure to use closed captions for videos that you're going to use in Canvas. And there's a couple ways you can do that. One of them is when you're in something such as TED Ed or any kind of other educational website, you're going to see down here that it gives you the option to choose to have closed captions or subtitles, and you can select the to have that on and put it in English, unless you're teaching a class in another language. So that's something that you want to know about. But also, when you are uploading a video, it gives you the option. So if I go up here to video and I want to upload one that I have already saved on my computer, I can just click on that and put it in, and it's going to give me this little button down here that says add closed caption subtitles, and I can select the language and then save that, and then it will be right there for my students to read. Now, a very cool thing about Canvas's rich content editor is that it has an accessibility checker. So when Canvas rich content editor is open, you're going to go to the very bottom and you're going to look for this little accessibility icon. And if you click on that, it is going to go through each of your parts of your web page and tell you anything that needs to be fixed. So for instance, here it's saying that tables should include a caption describing the contents of the table. If I want to do that, I can say colors in Canvas, Canvas, and apply it, and it will do that for me. It's also saying that table should have headers. I'm going to skip that. Here it's telling me that this color is probably not a good idea, so it's giving me a suggestion for another color. And I can just go apply, and it does that. So this is going to go through all the colors that are not accessible. And then it's going to say that file names should not be used as an attribute such as PNG, but this was a decorative image, so that's okay. So what we have now is the option to check the accessibility by using the accessibility checker. When you publish, your students can always use the Immersive Reader on any page, announcement, assignment, discussion, quiz, or syllabus that you have created using the Rich Content Editor. So if we click on the Immersive Reader, it is actually going to read all the text on the page to your student. So we click here.
Accessibility.
And I wanted to show you what happens when we go down to the images. So if I click here and we
Read. Lightbulb.png. Images. Eiffel Tower during daytime. Link.
Okay, so I did not click decorative images and it read lightbulb.png, which is probably not something I would want my students to hear. So I'd need to go back in and edit that. So those are just a couple things that you can see for accessibility. It's pretty important that we consider that when we are working with students who might need to have their disabilities addressed, but it's also a best practice for all of our learners.